Well, you have to have something to fight for, you know, that's most important to you. What got me involved in fighting the school system and the Willis Wagons were my children. You know, one day I had moved to Inglewood, and the schools became overcrowded because the blacks were moving from the you know, we had a restricted districts, and every time the school would change boundaries when blacks would move from one community and schools became overcrowded, and they were renovating a warehouse, and it was right up against the railroad track, and said, you know, my kids brought a flyer home and says, you know, we were supposed to start school here on that following Monday. And I looked at it and I said, I don't see how. And so I decided to go up to the school and to investigate. And they had wires, loose wires hanging, and nowhere nearly complete. And I met other parents, and we said, no way are we going to send our kids to this kind of situation. It's degrading. So we decided we were going to boycott. And that was the beginning. And then I started attending the Board of Education meeting.
What years are we talking about?
What years are you referring to?
I'm talking about the 1961, 62, 63, in that time.
And you mentioned the Willis Wagons, which I had never heard of before. I did do a little research about them.
Yeah, the mobile classrooms.
Yes.
That's what they.
But they were mostly for black children, I believe.
Right. But Ben Willis was the president of the Board of Education, and so we called them the Willis Wagons because he brought them in. And when we found out, the Chicago Urban League was doing research for us, and we found out that there were empty classrooms with libraries and all kinds of things, you know, further west in another district that was restricted to us, and empty classrooms. And they changed the boundaries, and we decided, no, we're not going to go for this. And so that was the beginning of the struggle against the Board of Education. Of course, Willoughby Abner, who was the president of the automobile workers industry here, UAW, which was a powerful union. He was also head of the NAACP. And he had started years ago, you know, during the time of the Brown versus the Board of Education. Here, because many of the kids were going half day, and he had started this whole struggle against the de facto desegregation. But it was left up to the parents, and when the parents got irate about what was happening to their children, then they said, we're not going to take this any longer. And so that's when I decided, and I said, we have to lay down in front of the bulldozers. Whatever we have to do, we're not going to take it. And that's exactly what we did when they came out to build a school that was between an alley and a railroad track for our children. We decided that we were going to lay in front of the bulldozers and that kind of stuff, and they weren't going to do it. So that's what we did. And I didn't really realize it until later, until someone got killed in Detroit, or was it Ohio? Someplace else outside of the state of Illinois. One of the bulldozers ran over that we had taken our lives in our hand. Because what we were doing, we were chaining ourselves to, that's how I got involved in CORE and met Bob Lucas and all of that. Chaining ourselves to the cement trucks and the police cars that came to arrest us and throwing the keys away. So we got very radical, but it was time for radical action at that time.
So you had a lot of courage, and you went to jail.
Yes, I was angry.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes, you know, but being angry in behalf of justice is different from being angry for some selfish reason.
Yeah, I spent a little time in jail.
How many times were you arrested?
I was arrested about 4 times, because every time I would walk out, I didn't have to do anything because I was the leader. Every time I would walk out, they would take me to jail.
I see.
You know, so.
And did you do real jail time, or
no,
it was until they bailed you out?
Until they bailed me out. You know, and that was the most interesting thing, because you really don't know what, because the first time I went to jail. Most of us were, until CORE and SNCC and all of those decided to come in and help us out. Most of us was parents for the community, and most of us was on welfare. We couldn't bail ourselves out of jail if we wanted to, but was willing to go to jail for what we felt was right. And interesting enough, one of the Presbyterian church, Reverend Clyde Allison and Reverend Frank Achista, bailed us out the first time. And then we started getting money from all over the country to bail us out of jail as we protested.
From individuals or organizations?
From organizations, from individuals, you know, from all over. And it was just amazing, the support that we got. You know.
Good. That's good. That's the real America.
And then,
that's America.
right, and then we had volunteer lawyers to come in who was willing to give up their time and not charge us, to go to court with us, and because we did have to go to court, you know, and that kind of stuff. So that's what happened.
Did Mayor Daley look bad because your children, you were keeping your children out of the school?
Yeah, yeah, they did mind that we were boycotting school. I'll tell you one interesting thing that happened to me, because they knew that I was receiving public assistance, and the mayor sent one of his honchos out to my house to offer me $100 if I would give up my demonstrations. If I would give up the demonstrations. And I said no way, and I threw him out of my house. So what happened to me is that they decided that they were going to cut me off of welfare. And so then later on, Charlie Hayes called me in, the late Charlie Hayes, who was head of the district at that time, District 1, Back-House Workers Union, and Edwin C. Berry from the Urban League. And they all knew I was going to be cut off, but nobody could do anything about it.
Mayor Daley ran everything.
Right. Here I am, one lonely, I don't say, here I am, one lonely little soul, and here they were going to cut my livelihood, you know, because they knew, and I'm a mother of 6 children, you know, and, but my attitude was, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you got to do, because I'm not going to. I'm not going to change. I thank God for my family, because my family, my mothers, my sisters, my brothers, you know, I knew were not going to let me go hungry, and nor my children, nor not have a place to stay. So, you know.
And they did cut you off?
Oh yeah, they cut me off. They cut me off. But then the late Richard Newhouse, who were at that time he was not a state senator, decided he was working for the Merrimont Foundation. Today I don't know what the Merrimont Foundation was. He said, well, I'm going to put you on the Merrimont Foundation payroll, and start bringing me a check by my house. And then after that, the Urban League decided to, you know, that they were going to take care of me by calling me one of their consultants, and you know, and they would just send one of the employees. Edwin C. Berry would send an employee out with a check for me to take care of me, and then, interesting enough, a bunch of students. Then Dr. King started his voter registration drive here, and I was hired to do that. And then a group of graduate students over at the University of Chicago had started a tutorial program, and they hired me by putting in money to pay my salary, to hire me to work with the youth and from the Woodlawn area and other kids that needed tutoring, and from that, you know.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That shows how something so good can happen from something so horrible.
Right, right. And from that, I went to work for the Woodlawn organization as an organizer to the Urban League to the state of Illinois, where I retired from in 1999.